Yeah. All right. We're here with Adam from Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. We're at Delfest 11 2018. And we're just sitting here. I'm setting up, and wow, what a great guy. So far, we are laughing here, so it's pretty cool.
It's great waters.
So let's talk about Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. You guys got a few albums out. You just put one out recently.
Yeah.
Which kind of culminated, and from what I was reading, you guys feel real good about this one particularly.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's exciting. So this is like, I think as you grow with your band, for us it's been the same 5 guys for 8 years now. You sort of find these layers of comfort. And with us, we've cut, we had cut, what was it, 3 records previous to the most recent one. And, you kind of learn as you go. And one thing I think that we all learned was that it's important to find some kind of mellow in the studio.
Right.
And to not stress yourself out and not be over analytical. Because, some would believe that the energy that's in the studio is sort of transferred somehow into what people hear, into the sonics of a record, into the vibration that it sends off into the world.
Right.
And so for this record in particular, in part from the help of Dave Simonette from Trampled by Turtles, who is a friend of ours and produced the record, we really, really yearned to just sort of capture our own natural, sort of organic aesthetic, like our own feel, like the way that we play together, as if we would come in and hang out with you right now and rip you a couple tunes.
Is it hard though, with the stress of knowing that you're in the studio and you got a meter clicking because it's expensive?
And I think that's part of it. I mean, I think you have to not freak yourself out.
Yeah.
So part of how we did that this time is we decided that we'd go to Pachyderm Studios, which is south of Minneapolis.
Right.
And that we'd go there, and there's a house, an old school house that was actually built by a contemporary of Frank Lloyd Wright, who's this cool, for folks that dig architecture.
Right.
He was a great house builder. And so his student made this house on this property.
Wow.
And so we were like, we're going to stay there for a week and see if we can cut a record. Well, lo and behold, the vibe was so good, and we were working a lot because the vibe was just good. We cut the whole record in 5 days, mixed and mastered.
Wasn't there something to do with like Nirvana or something like that?
Yeah, Nirvana cut Utero there. Nirvana's last record.
At this place in Minnesota, the Frank Lloyd Wright-esque place.
This cool house. So, like, you'd go and I remember the night we got there, we hung out, and Dave Simonette from Trampeled's a good buddy of ours. And we went with his favorite engineer, this guy Nick Feitbach. And those two guys were there, and we showed up slowly but surely. We pulled in. It was a snowstorm, I remember. Everybody just sort of pulled in one by one. Beers started getting cracked in this house, and bullshitting ensued. And then finally somebody was like, well, should we go down and try to cut some stuff? Or, because the studio is like just this beautiful little walkway.
So you prepaid for a certain amount of time.
For a
week.
You
didn't have the stress.
Yeah.
At least at the beginning.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it was sort of just like already set in stone.
Right.
It's not like we're not going to sit there and stare at the numbers, which frankly we never have.
Right.
I mean, whatever. Record budgets. Boop. Whatever, man.
Right.
Like, it's about making the music you want to make. But so, we're there. But so we go down there that first night and cut the first 2 tracks of the record right there.
How is it different from in the past, aside from it being beautiful surroundings? I mean, now Dave from Trampled, how is it different that he was sitting in the chair he was in?
Well, it was interesting. So him and I have been friends for a long time. I was seeing a girl in Minneapolis, and he lived down the road from her, so we became friends. And he was going through like a divorce and stuff. And so, or something like that, some sort of weird relationship schism. So he had more free time and we were hanging out more. And I got to, know him really well and sort of discussed through the process of recording the previous record how that was making me feel. And, he gave his outlook on it, which is kind of like more of a rock and roll sort of feel. Like, let's go in there and let's just cut the shit out of this record. Let's just go for it and see what comes out on the other side, and maybe we're going to encapsulate something that's pretty natural and fun. And so our brains had sort of mingled about that, and that sort of in juxtaposition with the stress that Cats had been feeling in the previous sessions about, we would go in there and we would just be so meticulous. And I mean, to be fair, like, I'm also proud of, like, our records, Middle Western and This Old Town, where we were super, super intense about, going back in and overdubbing a sweet solo or putting layering on something to make it sound just right to our ears. Like, we were insane in the studios, like, to the point where Russ and I were just had driven ourselves to insanity.
Wow.
Where this time we were like, let's go in there and let's make like almost something that you could liken to like the basement tapes.
Oh.
Where, you just go in and you cut it. So on this last record, the lead vocals are being sung live, and in some instances the harmony vocals as well. So we're all actually playing live and singing, which in the modern recording sort of paradigm, you record all of the instruments and then you maybe make scratch vocals and then lay down some more, articulate vocals over the top of that.
Right.
But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to like lay it natural and just feel it out. And it ended up being just the sweetest experience, and we all left. And I'll never forget hugging our bass player, Sam, and him just saying to me, like, just kind of squeezing you with that hug that's like, I mean this, and saying that may have been the best musical week of my life.
Wow.
And he just,
awesome.
Squeezed me and walked away.
How did you guys meet? Like,
home.
was it through college or something?
Yeah, it was through school.
So you would just got a little pickup band and it just kind of stayed that way?
Well, I mean, it's that's a whole nother complicated thing. I mean, I was actually, believe it or not, a football player. I played at the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point.
Well, you look pretty muscular there. I believe it. I believe
As
it.
a middle linebacker.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, it was at University of Stevens Point, and the team captain was my freshman year. This was, just the earliest part of the season, training camp into the first game. It was like 4 days, before the first game, and I was slated to be the backup. This is my freshman year. I was slated to be the backup for either D-end. So it was like a somewhat crucial position.
Right.
And this captain, who happened to be a D-end, who I looked up to, very good player, said to us to kind of jack people up. He goes, "We're all this school's got. The rest of the campus is just hippies and rednecks." And I was just like, oh, like, I don't know, like, I don't like, that just felt really wrong to me. And it's like, and I'm a hippie and a redneck. I was like, I'm somewhere in between a hippie, a redneck, and a jock.
Yeah.
It's like, and I certainly don't like hearing that at all. And it just kind of freaked me out. And I remember it stayed with me all practice, and then we like ran conditioning and stuff. And I remember I went up to the head coach after, and they had recruited me hard, and were expecting good things. And I just went up to him, and he's like, "What's going on?" I just chucked my helmet at his feet. Which, looking back at it, was a little close to hitting him. And he's like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "I'm done." It's like, I don't like this shit. I was like, I'm not living my life doing this. 2 days later, I met Sammy, our bass player, who a couple days previous had met Colin, Russ, and Dave, who are a year older than us.
It sounds similar to a Todd Snyder story where he was playing football in one of the songs, and he asked, what's all those guys doing out there? And they're like, oh, those are the hippie guys. You don't want to be them, and
He's like,
you'll have to listen to the
Johnson.
story because it's a great.
Did you see that I'm wearing the hardworking Americans cap?
It's great.
Yeah. So Chad Staley, our like good buddy of mine, Chad Staley is from Green Bay, Wisconsin, where we're from.
Right.
And of course, he manages Todd Snyder and is in Hardworking Americans with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
I didn't know that.
And so I've gotten to know Todd Snyder and Chad Staley and all of those guys.
There's a song about that.
I know what you're talking about.
You know the song?
I
It's like, I think it has to do with eventually he goes into the field and does mushrooms and sees the jocks playing and decides he'd rather stay in the field.
Stay in the field playing Ultimate Frisbee. Well, so that was mine, man. I ended up playing Ultimate Frisbee and joining Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Everything was just fine.
So what's up with Horseshoes and Hand Grenades? You got these albums out. You're the guitar player and singer?
We all sing.
You all sing. You all have that.
Yeah, we're all like, it's pretty...
Is everyone like sharing songwriting?
Oh, yeah.
Do you write songs together, or is it like
sometimes?
Sometimes.
Well, our whole thing, like, I think from the beginning has been sort of just like... take it as it comes, go with the flow kind of a vibe.
And everyone feels the same way, which is a nice thing.
Yeah, and nobody, I think, I'll go write a song, and then I'll call, like, Russell, or we'll be sitting at a festival, and I'll be like, hey, this just happened, what do you think, and he might comment on various aspects of it, or more often than not, it's just like, let me try to lay down a harmony right on that, and next thing you know, everybody just sort of puts themselves into the song, and it evolves, and it's all
sure. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's never been a particularly stressful process with our crew, in part because, back to your question about how we met. I mean, we met at college, so it was insane. I mean, you talk about mushrooms. I mean,
we are videotaping.
Well, I don't have any shame in all that. But, things happen. And, it was a wild time, and we all went through kind of crazy experiences. And the deal with us, man, is that we never set out to be a band. People just started calling us a band.
So how'd you get the name?
Well, we had to write on a piece of paper. I remember this because I can envision the piece of paper to this day. It was some kind of business type contract where we had to write a name on it and turn it in. And I remember Russ saying, we have to put a name on this, man, and we're like, well, what do we do? And somebody's like, we have a party. And so we had a party
to decide
at the house, and word spread that we were trying to figure out a name.
Right.
And the night goes on, and it's an all-nighter, and once the smoke settles and the last beer got drank, everybody woke up with a crooked hangover. The only name anybody could remember to begin with was Horseshoes and Hand Grenades.
Nice.
But of everything that had been spat.
It's a great name.
Yeah, so we're always like a little weird about the hand grenade part.
Right.
We're not peace-loving folk. But we saw the irony in it because of being peace-loving folk.
Yeah.
Kind of like, hardworking Americans, sort of similar concept to some degree.
Yeah.
But that's how that whole thing shook down. I just remember being like, I guess we're Horseshoes and Hand Grenades.
So when you guys got together, you doing a gig or something where you needed to come up with the name, and that was obviously the beginning. So at that point, did you guys realize that this is what you're going to do, or did it just kind of happen, like slowly?
More the latter.
Did you say like, hey, let's do it, or all of a sudden you were like, hey, we're doing it?
This has never been serious, and it still isn't.
Well, you're on a serious tour. You're doing it.
But we're not like. The key thing, man, is to never take yourself too seriously,
right. So
or you already lost the whole thing.
Sure.
Take yourself seriously. I think enough to be, respectful of the people and the places, like the people that come to see you and the places you go to play. But also just remember that it's just about being goofy.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. We came here, we're playing underneath these big-ass ridges on the Potomac River. What is that, the Allegheny Mountains?
I think so,
right?
yeah.
I mean, that's cool as hell, and we never thought that we were going to be doing that kind of thing. It just sort of slowly evolved, and nobody's ever been able to say, I guess maybe we should stop.
Right.
You know?
But you have a fan base already that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
You have a solid fan base.
Yeah, I mean, and I think part of that, honestly, I think that comes from just like that freewheeling aspect. Like I look at the Dead, you know, I think about the Dead from time to time. I like their sense of, you know, sort of organic flow. I like the fact that they never freaked out about playing shitty for a night where everybody was off. Like I like how they were like, well, that's fine, tomorrow will be better, you know. I think it's important to kind of keep like a light, whimsical attitude, and we all have to be reminded of that. Well, myself included. I mean, I can be a perfectionist.
Jerry seemed to have the idea when they said, "What do you think about people recording your show?" And he was like, "Oh man, if you want it, man, bummer for you. You know,
right.
He's like, we'll do better next time. Sorry."
Man. Well, it's true though. You know that concept. I don't know. I like the idea of continuing to sort of chase music and see how songs can evolve and see how we can evolve as people and see if we can, you know, continue to evolve as a group of gentlemen together. Like continue to see how we can evolve as like a group, not meaning the five of us or even like the 8 of us that is our touring party, but like the whatever.
A lot, and you feel it when you're here.
It's true though. It is so here.
Yeah.
I mean that resonance that rings from somebody like Del McCoury. Yeah. Like I saw him. Man, we're on the way here last night from summer camp, which is a great festival, but it's crazy and just debaucherous, and it's big and it's eclectic, so you get all kinds of different vibes and all kinds of different people. But I saw this video of Green Sky and Del singing single mic last night. And I just felt so pumped to go there. I shouted. I was like, "Drive faster!" Well, you got Bill Monroe, the founder of Bluegrass. You got Jimmy Martin, the king of Bluegrass. And I mean, in my mind, Del McCoury is my meter for Bluegrass.
I understand. You're not alone. You're not alone.
I understand how folks, you know, can certainly Bill Monroe, the king, or the father, and Jimmy Martin, the king of Bluegrass. But what is Del then? I mean, he's just like for all of us in the scene now, I mean, he's the one we all look up to, and even his sons. I mean, Ronnie and Robbie, the hangs that we've had with those guys, like the genuine nice hangs and like words of encouragement. And you know,
when they first had the first few Del Fests, I was at each one that they've had, and I'm just some doofy guy walking around, and Ronnie and Jason would, if I'm walking somewhere, they would. This is the first few years. They were just stopping anyone, so they'd stop me and go, "Hey man, are you having fun?" And they're like asking me, I'm just some guy really walking by, and they weren't.
It's so cool.
It's the coolest, and I'm talking to them, and I'm like, "Hey man, don't waste your time on me, but thank you. Yes, I'm having a great time." I just think
that they're the nicest folks. I mean, the same shit happened to me today, man. We pull in our little blue bus from summer camp, all haggard. And I walk back and I'm like trying to get a beer. Well, I can't get a beer till 6 o'clock apparently or something backstage. So I go back to my bus, crack a warm Miller Lite, walk further backstage, and I hear somebody go, "Hey man!" And I turn and it's Rob McCoury, like with his arms out, ready to give you a big hug. And then we, proceed to talk about bass fishing on the Potomac River because he's a big fisherman and hunter. Just a nice guy. We always have a great chat about that kind of stuff. And then he has to excuse himself because I'll be damned if he's not going to pick with Richard Thompson. Rehearsing the old Vincent Black Lightning song right over there. So then I'm just sitting there with John Stickley watching them rehearse that, thinking about what a trip that is, But them McCurries are so cool. I have all these crazy stories about Ronnie just like being so incredibly open about these stories. He's a great bluegrass historian.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in reading like the Rosenthal History of Bluegrass book, for instance. I got a lot of stories out of that, and I've talked at length with Ronnie to elaborate on those stories because he's got them, from his dad. He told me a story once. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but he told me a story about that picture, the night that there's a picture of Del and Ronnie and Rob and Jerry Garcia and somebody else. I can't remember who the other person is. But there's a picture from it. I was asking him about that. And he said, I can't remember if it was first set or second set, but he said that they went down and Jerry had made sure they had front row seats at this Dead show. Because he must have respected Del, I would imagine.
Sure.
And he said that the Dead kicked it off with Cold Rain and Snow.
Yeah, nice.
The old
Sure.
bluegrass classic.
Right,
with their different version, like dun dun dun
Right.
dun.
I
married me a wife. She's been trouble all my life. And I guess Garcia looked right at Del McCoury, and Ronnie said that he's never quite asked his dad like how he felt about that whole the whole experience. Because I asked Ronnie, I was like, well, what did Del think? And they thought it was cool as hell. John Weisberger, he's a great bluegrass songwriter.
Right.
Good guy.
Isn't he the guy who does the show with Del?
Exactly. So John and Del do this show
show
together on Sirius Radio. And I had got to know John Weisberger through various channels, mostly because of his affiliation with the String Dusters, actually.
I didn't know that,
He writes a lot of tunes with those cats.
I didn't know that.
Particularly Jeremy Garrett, their fiddler.
Those guys killed it.
But I asked him, John, and this is just, this was years ago. It was me just like wondering, being curious. I was like, well, what is, because I know that they play Horseshoes sometimes on their radio show.
Yeah.
And I was like, so what is Del like? Does Del like the music, or what does he have to say? And John told me that Del had said that he likes groups that he can tell are a group. He can tell are themselves.
Genuine.
And he said Leftover Salmon. He talked about Leftover Salmon, how he can be backstage. He doesn't have to look at him, and he can hear it and know it's Leftover Salmon.
Right.
And he had said that he felt that way about us, Del did.
Well, the fact that you hear,
which I just thought was such a...
That alone, to be invited here, I think that alone means you have Del's blessing.
Oh my gosh! Well, yeah, of course, and certainly, I've had the pleasure of like brief conversation with Del. I've gotten to shake his hand, and things like that, which are just awesome for somebody who's looked up to him and heard his recordings for so many years. But I don't know Del really, but I know Ronnie and Robbie pretty well, and like. They know how much I respect their father, and they know how much I respect the longtime culture of bluegrass, and that we all do, in our group. And so, I like to kind of answer your question. I feel like Del has a respect for music, and that his sons do too, and that they understand, like the power of, say, something like what Nitty Gritty Dirt Band did with the circle sessions. That how when music expands from bluegrass, when someone is influenced by someone like Del, how that can kind of create these ripples and be good for all, everyone in the community, not just the musicians, but the fans alike. I mean, I'm somebody who loves traditional bluegrass music, but can listen to the deepest depths of grass-infused rock and metal and roll, and still get a kick out of it.
Like, do we need the genre? Do we need the label? Because Del has stepped outside the label. Granted, when they play, they look very traditional. They play traditional, but he's stepped out so much. I mean, with everything he does.
It's interesting that you asked that, because I've thought a lot about that question and talked at length with sort of my local bluegrass music historian and advocate, Art Stevenson. Art Stevenson at Highwater is their name. Excellent bluegrass band out of central Wisconsin. People I've looked up to since I was very young. And I believe, personally, that there's a specific space for traditionalists. Like, I believe that the traditional music that is bluegrass music ought to be continually visited, and that it should be, there should be an awareness that that is a particular style, that being the style that Bill Monroe set out to create. He wanted to create the style as mandolin, fiddle, three-finger banjo, guitar, bass. Like, there's a style that you hear when you listen to Flat and Scruggs, or you listen to Bill Monroe, or you listen to Jimmy Martin, Don Reno, things like that. And so that ought to be preserved while also allowing folks to expand upon that music. So I think that there's basically a space for everybody, and I think recently, thankfully, in no small part to the advocacy from people like John Weisberg or I'm blanking on his name, Dell's bass player, Alan Bertram. Like, he too has been an advocate for allowing, for instance, IBMA, allowing their definition of music to expand further than just.
But didn't even Bill Monroe expand? That towards the end he had drums that he was playing with.
I know.
He was anti-drums, but then he played with drums.
It's a goofy irony there.
It is.
Because he was not interested in doing the circle sessions. I believe.
You mean with the nitty-gritty?
Yeah.
He was.
I believe he turned down the original circle sessions.
I had no idea.
That, and I don't want to say that for certain on the record, but I would love if, I'm sure like Del or Ronnie would know the answer to that question. Because I think that Scruggs Whitten did it, Earl Scruggs. And I think Lester Flatt didn't want to do it either.
Oh, wow.
So I think Scruggs was the only one out of those, three pretty powerful
Well, Scruggs
figures.
certainly played all
He started the
genres.
Scruggs Review.
Yeah,
and
he
stuff
played all
after
kinds
that.
of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Well, and his sons, of course, Randy and Gary, were so influential in music making. They did a lot of producing. Came out with a couple of great records too that John Hartford advocated for.
No kidding, I didn't know. Wow.
Yeah, God, that's what's on my record player right now at home.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, they cover some cool. They've got like a record that's like a bunch of covers I've been jamming to.
Well, Scruggs certainly covered everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like Earl Scruggs is, he's certainly somebody who all the banjo guys look up to. Russ, who's in our band, he's odd because he's a three-finger, or not a three-finger. He's not three-finger. He's a clawhammer banjo player.
Oh, no kidding.
So he looks more up to like people like the Skillet Lickers, or like Frank from what is that band? It's slipping my mind. But he's more of an old time style player who's sort of expanding, because he listens to people like Bela Fleck and Chris Pandolfi from the Dusters.
Well, look what they've done. They've changed the world. They've changed the world.
Bela certainly has. I mean, Throw Down Your Heart, for instance. He did that documentary of African banjo music, which was a trip to me, because there's these cats that are living in Madison, Wisconsin, that play these gourd banjos.
Wow.
And he told me, this guy, Tani Diacate, who's known as playing this gourd banjo in Madison, Wisconsin, he told me he's a first-generation immigrant from Africa, and he told me that he was so oppressed in his village that he had to hide his gourd banjo out in the woods outside of town, and he would go out there to practice. And he said that at one point, he hadn't played for a little bit, and he went back out in the woods to get his gourd banjo, and he said, I'll be damned, there was an entire beehive in there.
Oh my
so
gosh.
He picks it up to put it by his side and gets stung all over his
why
head.
do you have to hide it?
Because it wasn't appropriate in his sort of tribe.
I see.
Music wasn't, it was a little bit more restricted. And so I thought that was really interesting, because it goes back, people talk about why immigrants came here, the old and early immigrants immigration periods, and I mean, mostly that was because of, religious or social persecution.
Right.
A lot of that was, and folks don't think about how that carries on today.
Sure.
That's still why immigrants come here. So stop telling them to not come in the country.
Well, I think though, just going back to when Bela went out to Africa, it's like I think that story that he made with that documentary really would be hard to tell that story if it wasn't someone like Bela.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go out there and
who's been encompassed
tell the story.
all of these genres.
It needed to be him.
Somebody so well respected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For him to, and he's pulling people off the streets.
Yeah.
That have such talent that, just.
I know.
Amazing.
And he got into Tani. Like, so my friend Tani is very similar to that.
Really?
Like he's, I don't think he was in that documentary. Although I'd like to connect him and Bela because this guy's incredible. I mean, just the way that he plays is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that connection between African music and bluegrass is pretty hilarious, in my opinion.
Well,
like, people tend to think, people put their mind into boxes and think, bluegrass is about this culture and it's about this style of living. And I mean, these days, that's just not even true at all. I mean, cats talk about how Bill Monroe sort of, and Flatt and Scruggs, took this music, from blues and from Appalachian Irish music and stuff, and sort of melded it, and then took it into the more industrial areas of the country, like, Detroit and stuff like that, and they put on suits and dressed well.
Yeah.
And then sort of made it more appealing to the populace. But really that music has always been rural, it had come from rural music.
Right.
And now these days, I mean, it's just everywhere. I mean, it's not like you can't pin it on country folk, you can't pin it on city folk. I mean, it's everyone and folks in between. I mean, it's whatever makes people feel good. There's a certain thing about bluegrass that makes you bump and jive.
But let's go back to Horseshoes.
Yeah.
Tell us about the band. Like, tell us about the guys in the band, and let's talk about Horseshoes. Bring that back, 'cause we just went far off.
Man, I'm a history major.
I hear you.
I'm a history major.
I'm all for it, man. I want the world to. Well, the world. Whoever's going to listen to this, I want them to know about Horseshoes.
Sure. Well, yeah, man. I don't know. Like, we all came from Wisconsin, and ironically, the type of conversation we just had is typical.
Yeah.
For Horseshoes.
That was a great conversation. I like that.
And that we're fast to just kind of go about our lives in an organic sense, and fishing is really important to us all. We like to get out on the riverways. Sammy, our bass player, is an organic farmer.
Wow.
In Milwaukee. Like, he's literally an organic farmer in the city of Milwaukee.
In the city itself. Wow.
Yeah. And, Colin, our fiddler, lives in, far northern Wisconsin, basically on Lake Superior, a little bit south thereof. And he actually went to school, and he's a lawyer.
Nice.
Which is hilarious if you know our band.
Well, it's hilarious that he's playing in your band.
Yeah.
So at one point in his life, he had to make a decision.
Yeah.
And he made the right one.
Yeah. Well, he's still he's a practicing lawyer and
he's practicing.
Yeah, and a great guy.
Wow. How do you keep a practice going when you got to hit the road all the time?
You'd have to ask him.
So he somehow makes it work.
He seems fine.
Right. Wow. And it's kind of cool if you guys are in a jam, he's there to help you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Russ, our banjo player, lives down in what's called the Driftless region in Wisconsin. And
what does that mean?
The Driftless means that the glacier that came down and flattened most of Wisconsin didn't make it there for whatever reason.
How long ago was that? A glacier?
Oh man, I don't know. I wish I knew.
Tens of thousands of years
or so. A long time
ago.
But it's still called the Driftless. And he lives down there. He's an outstanding fly fisherman.
Oh,
in
nice.
fact, Larry Keel, I'm sure you know him.
Let me tell you, I love Larry Keel. I interviewed him. I interviewed a lot of people. and he, if I could say, he's so cool without trying to be cool.
Yeah.
And I think he said one thing that just, I tell all my friends, anyone that asks me, says Larry Keel, one of the standard things I ask people along the way, there's a few questions I just throw in there, when I need a question. And I said, so like at one point, did you know that this is what you were going to do?
Yeah.
You're living your life.
Good question.
At what point do you know I'm going to go be a musician? And he was like, the first time I touched a guitar, he was like, that was it. He goes, there was no question. There was no question of anything else. And I thought that was the coolest thing.
I'll tell you that there's, in terms of guitar players, there's no one that I personally look up to more than him. Partially
awesome.
because of he's just been so kind to us through all the years. Like he was playing with Jeff Austin, it was Keel's Jeff Austin and Danny Barnes.
Yeah.
We opened up for him once in Milwaukee, and man, getting high with Larry Keel and playing.
Danny Barnes just played with Grisman, was totally cool. And we've seen Danny Barnes a few times, and people don't realize the songs that he wrote. He's written so many songs. String Dusters do his songs.
Get in while you can.
Right.
8-ball baby and a jug of wine.
Yonder has, I think, Ragdoll was his song. And,
really? Ragdoll was
I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought.
Know. Jeff plays that song.
I thought he did it together. He did one of those top songs.
Sure. Oh, I know what you're thinking about. Not Ragdoll.
It's not Ragdoll?
No, it's oh God, what is that called?
Steve Gray?
No, it's something like that. It's a darker tune.
It's one of their big tunes.
Ironically, I know how to play it, but I can't remember how to. Anyhow, it was one of those Yonder tunes. Yeah, Danny Barnes.
So you play guitar.
Yeah.
You want to play a song right now?
I don't have my axe here.
I have an axe for you.
Sure. But anyhow, so I wake up in the middle of the night, and I had this weird dream, and I wrote this tune.
All right.
Let's see here. I got troubles on my mind. Most of the time I feel just fine. Now and then they creep on in. Breath of curse hits my heart again. No more laying in the dirty doghouse. Wait right here long as you must. Soon to come this moment's past. Best kick out the devil's trash. Long as I've been, it rules my mind. Cold ass feeling in the broad daylight. Fear of what I might just find. If I dig too deep in this heart of mine, no more laying in the dirty doghouse. Wait right here long as you must. Soon to come this moment's past. Best kick out the devil's trash. Curse the night. Vision ain't the same this side. Take that fear out on the road. Sing your ass off sevenfold. No more laying in the dirty doghouse. Wait right here long as you must. Soon to come this moment's past. Best kick out the devil's trash. Drain your soul and dough. Chase tomorrow when you're feeling low. Waste away the time. Touch your head when you're just fine. No more laying in the dirty doghouse. Wait right here long as you must. Soon to come, this moment's past. Best kick out the devil's trash. Devil's trash.
All right, Adam with Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, which we find you online at Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, right?
Yeah, man. HHGmusic.com.
HHGmusic.com. All right, we've been going for a while, so I'm going to turn this off for now. Adam, it was great, man, and we're going to keep hanging here. All right, man.